Hey, good evening, everybody. It is Sean Roach, and I'm proud to be the principal at Pacific Grove Middle School, and I'm joined this evening by Casey Rodenbush. And this is part 4 of our 4-part anti-bias bullying series. And tonight we're going to discuss LGBTQ plus students and neurodiverse students. And we have a wonderful expert with us this evening, Casey Rodenbush. So Casey, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, everyone. My name is Casey Rodenbush. I am a services manager for Monterey County Behavioral Health, and I lead an amazing team of clinicians and support staff in the public schools across Monterey County. And for the past several years, I've been working on a project called Rainbow Connections that is designed to support our LGBTQ plus youth and the adults who love and support them. So tonight's presentation is really intended to provide you with information that will help you as you're raising your children. It's quite a task to cultivate their wellness with all the things that we have going on these days. And so I just am grateful that you've taken the time to listen in and take in some of this information. You can't see them, but they're in the room. I have my other two collaborators here. We have Julie Mandaro, who is the program manager for the bullying prevention program at Harmony at Home, and Denise Adeza, who is our bullying prevention coach for the Rainbow Connections Project. And Denise works at Pacific Grove Middle every Wednesdays and is doing some incredible work here. So super grateful to have both of them working alongside me in this project. So just an overview of what we'll be talking about today, or what I'll be reviewing. I just want to share some terminology. Some of this will likely not be new for you, but I just want to make sure that we just start with the foundations and understanding terminology and pronouns, the mental health risk factors and the protective factors that our youth are experiencing. We'll also talk about how you can be a supportive and affirming parent. We'll explore the different impacts of rejecting behaviors on healthy identity development in LGBTQ plus and neurodivergent youth, and then also learn supportive behaviors that will help reinforce their authentic self-expression, because that's what we want. We want them to just be able to be themselves. And then also creating inclusive environments across settings. So not only in the home environment where you live, but also how do we support that across settings in the school environment and then also in the community. So some key terminology, this acronym LGBTQ, it keeps going because humans are a prism. We have so many different identities. And so we have the plus, so LGBTQIA plus, really there are ways that people identify that will fall into this plus category, and really it is up to the individual. So the most common ones that we hear through the LGBTQIA plus would be lesbian, which is a woman who is attracted to other women; gay, a man who is attracted to other men, or a term that's used to describe people who are attracted to people of the same sex; someone who is bisexual is attracted to both men and women; a transgender person has a gender identity that differs from the sex that they're assigned at birth, because that is something that is given to us. It's not something that we are able to identify ourselves. That's what the journey is about. So we have a fair amount of individuals moving through the world that have had that decision made for them. And so they come to realize as they live their life that it actually doesn't resonate with them. So that's where transgender comes in. And cisgender is one where, so I am a cisgender female, meaning I was born and assigned female at birth. I have always aligned with that gender identity, and that has never been an issue for me. So cisgender, some folks said this is a new term for you. So just know if you hear cisgender, that just means that everything lines up from what you're being, how you identify internally, and then how the world around you is referring to you. Queer. So this term, depending on how it's used, someone can proudly identify as a queer person, but also it can be used as a slur. So it's just like with any language, it's how we use it. and the intent that we're using behind our words. So it can be an umbrella term. Also, the Q can stand for questioning. So questioning, just unsure, meaning that someone is moving through their life and maybe they had been attracted to the opposite gender, and then it starts to shift for them. So just know that questioning is part of it. Can be that Q is interchangeable. So it can be queer or it can be questioning. Intersex is when a person is born with sex characteristics that do not fit the typical male or female binary. And so that is not as common. And the statistic that points out to me is it's as common as people that are born with red hair. So it's not super common. But it is also a lived experience for people that we need to take in mind when we are in relationship with them, if this is something that they are identifying as. Asexual is someone that does not feel any sexual attraction towards anyone. And then neurodiversity. So just to make this distinction, so neurodivergent, there is a higher population of people that are diagnosed with autism that have that identify as LGBTQ+. So neurodivergent, we hear this, I've been hearing this word a lot recently. And if there are other conditions that, aside from autism, that fall within this category of neurodiversity. Yes.
It's like an umbrella term.
It is an umbrella term. So Julie, can't see her, but she's here and she's adding to this discussion and saying it's an umbrella term. So oppositional defiant disorder, attention deficit disorder. So there are other anything that is not neurotypical. So neurotypical meaning developing in a way that does not have any variance from being regulated, moving through the world. I think a lot of us could relate to that right now. So when it comes into be a condition, it's where it interferes with functioning. And so we need to have special considerations for youth that are neurodivergent. So as I mentioned just a minute ago, with the LGBTQ+ identities and neurodiversity, they found that there were, so this study suggests individuals with gender and sexual identities outside the cis hetero. So here comes in that cis gender term that I just used. So cis hetero. So when we say cis hetero, that means so heterosexual. Sometimes you'll hear heteronormative, meaning that the lens of the world is just one way, which we know it's not. So these individuals were 3 to 6 times more likely to have a diagnosis of autism. So autism is one of those, it's under the umbrella, along with others. So this isn't necessarily a presentation on neurodiversity and what happens with an individual that is neurodivergent. So I just wanted to point that out too. I just wanted to also mention that there's a higher percentage of the population of people with autism that identify as LGBTQ+. Okay. If you've never seen a gender unicorn, it's a wonderful tool. And as parents, it's really important as we're raising our children that we understand our own experience, because as we're helping our youth develop all through the different developmental stages, things are going to come up for them around gender identity and sexual orientation. So it's important for you to know how you identify, so that as the discussions come up, if you find yourself activated, you have a sense of what's going on for you, so that you're not putting that onto your youth's experience. So knowing ourselves is so important. This is all of these different domains. So gender identity, gender expression, sex assigned at birth, physically attracted to, emotionally attracted to, they're all a spectrum. You can move through these spectrums multiple times throughout your life. So we are talking about children here, youth, and we are responsible for them as their parents and guardians. And so as they're moving through these spectrums, how we respond to them is so important. So that's what we're going to be spending a lot of our time together talking about. Pronouns. some may think, what's the big deal? What's the big deal about pronouns? Well, it's really big, because if you think about the amount of times that you use a pronoun in a sentence when you're talking about another person, it's like every other word. And so if a youth is exploring their identity, understanding that identity is something that is being formed, middle school is really this prime time, middle school and high school, where they're starting to like test things out, experiment, try things on. 1 in 4 LGBTQ plus youth use pronouns or pronoun combinations that fall outside of that gender binary. So 1 in 4. So when someone is forming that identity, because it is there's an exploration that goes on, the people around them reinforce it. And so if a youth is trying a pronoun, and it's really for us understanding that it's their journey, when we use their pronouns, that they're stating, these are my pronouns, we reinforce it every time we use it. And so if we're not using it, that's just so thinking about how many times you use it in a sentence. So that's rejection, rejection, rejection. If you're not using that pronoun. So it's so important. Also the name, I understand parents, and we think a lot about our names that we choose for our kids. It's really important to us. But then they get to developing their own sense of identity, and they come up with a different name for themselves and different pronouns. And so for the practice and the work of a parent is really to allow space for that. Even when you don't understand it, it's their journey. So it's really, as they're changing their pronouns, just give it a try and let them know, and let them know that you may, if it's new for you, that you may struggle. And the more you reinforce that, the more they feel seen and they feel heard, because ultimately that's all they want, to feel seen and heard. So over here on the left, we have the different pronouns that we see. So she, her, he, him, those are the binary. You also have combinations. So she, they, you can see on my signature as she, they. I was using she, her, Aya for a long time, and then I started using she, they, and I love it. I love it because it's inclusive. We all are a mix of hormones. And so it's up to the individual. And so whatever pronouns that they are using, we want to, it's a sign of respect. So she, they, he, they, then there's others. Do you hear any others, Sean? I'll just ask you around here in the middle school. Do you hear any others?
Of the ones you've selected, I've heard all of this.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some up there though that I have not heard.
Yes. Yeah. And they're called neo-pronouns. So, and I can't even pronounce them actually. So yeah. So yeah. So we don't hear them much, but if you're listening in at home and you have your youth is using some of these and saying that they're using them, just give it a try. And if they might change it, they could change it like 2 days later, but that's part of it, trying it on, and our work as parents is not to react, just not react, just let them be, let them try it out. If it becomes an issue of safety, then we have a different situation. And safety is, there's ways that we can handle different situations, because when it comes to protections that our youth have in the schools, and if you're a parent where you have a youth that may be using a pronoun that's different in different settings, there's something there where we have to understand what is driving that for that youth. So here in the work that we're doing in collaboration with Rainbow Connections and the school site and the district, it's really meeting the youth and the parent and the caregiver and the staff, whoever is needing help, where they're at, and trying to understand how we can support and what is getting in the way of that youth being their authentic self across settings. And if there's a resistance to generalizing across settings, there's a reason for that. We want to find out. So, mental health. So this is like my world, mental health, behavioral health. By trade, a clinician. I've been an administrator for a really long time, and I've seen all of this. So on the left-hand side, the risk factors for LGBTQIA+. So first and foremost, this project that I created is suicide prevention. It's really when youth feel like they don't have the space or the option to be themselves. Sometimes they take other actions that can be life-threatening and have ended, unfortunately, lives. So first and foremost, it's suicide prevention. Youth that are being discriminated against, that can impact their mental health. Coming out can also impact their mental health if they're not feeling comfortable coming out to you as their parent. You know, there's a lot of factors there. So not taking it personally, you know, there's the society and the way that they're viewing. I see more youth that are identifying outside the binary and just as LGBTQ plus than they have in the past. So that's good. But we also have a lot of changes happening at the national level that are then impacting that. So coming out is really up to that youth, you know, and if they come out to you as a parent, wonderful. And if they don't, it's really not always about your relationship with them, but I'll talk a little bit later about how you can create the conditions for them to have open dialogue with you. Unfortunately, LGBTQIA plus youth experience homelessness at a disproportional rate because sometimes when they come out to the people that they're living with and their family members, they are kicked out of the home. So in the homeless population, you see LGBTQ plus youth, they're seen more often in this realm. Substance use, same thing. So all the reasons why a youth would be driven to use substances, that can impact their mental health. Family rejection is a significant impact to mental health. Bullying and harassment also. That's why I have this element and of this component in the Rainbow Connections project, is that if you have a youth that is experiencing rejection across settings, then there's no relief for this individual, this youth. So that's why I'm intent on impacting as many environments as I can with all the resources that we have available. When there's lack of school support, that can also impact mental health. A large portion of the population that are LGBTQ plus youth have a difficult time accessing medical care and mental health care. When there is a barrier to medical care, it's this not feeling comfortable going into the primary care physician, talking about reproductive health, sexual health, anything that is going on with their bodies. Because if they're not out, or they don't even feel comfortable talking with their medical provider, then that's going to impact their mental health as well. There are many anti-LGBTQ plus legislation and policies going on. They're increasing by the day. So that impacts mental health. Eating disorders. So eating disorders, this is pretty prevalent. I'll say I see it in the behavioral health system. We have a high rate of youth that we're serving within our program that have identified as LGBTQ plus, and then a lack of social support and community. We need community. That's how we actually heal. We heal in community. We don't heal in isolation. So we need to cultivate connection, not only for the youth, but for y'all, for the parents. So if you're a parent of an LGBTQ plus or a neurodivergent student, you need other parents so that you're not isolated, because otherwise we can get into this space where we feel it's just me. I'm the only one that's having this experience. So we need to have community. So the good stuff, protective factors, family acceptance, huge. Think about how much our families impact us. Our families could have said something to us when we were 5. We still remember it. So it gets ingrained in there. So when our families accept us, it's huge. Having other supportive adults is very important. Positive peer relationships, clubs. The Prism Club here at the middle school is beautiful. And I think there's one at the high school too. There's one at the high school too. So really there's space. We need spaces where the kids can come in and just be. You know, they go out into the comprehensive campus and things happen. that we're outnumbered. Adults are outnumbered by the kids. And so they can get into corners and say and do things to one another that can be really, really difficult for them. So we need clubs. Thank you for having a club here, and clubs, plural, in PG, because these things, these types of spaces save lives. They really do. Access to medical care and mental health care. So you can see, you're noticing this is like all the opposite of what the risk factors are. So the good stuff. So if we see inclusive policies, California, thank you, California. We have so many great laws in California that protect our LGBTQ plus youth. So important. Respect for pronouns and access to all gender restrooms. And I'll add on here, I didn't put that on here, but facilities. So locker rooms, huge, really big. Access to all gender restrooms is really challenging for schools because of the way they're built. And we are tasked based on legislation to provide youth access to restrooms and locker room facilities that align with their gender identity, how they identify, not the way that we see them. It's them. They drive it. Okay. And go into a little bit of data. So I want to talk about Trevor Project. So if you don't know about Trevor Project, wow, they're amazing. They have years. They have been doing research and studies, and they have so much great information on their website. So this is taken from Trevor Project. The 5 most common ways that LGBTQ youth reported feeling supported by their parents or caregivers. So as a parent, we know when people are coming into our homes, how we receive them is important, and the kids not always like the social skills, like they vary. So sometimes you have a kid that comes into your home and calls you by your name and says hi. Sometimes they don't even look up, right? So you just don't know. But just welcoming them into the home, so if your youth is identifying as LGBTQ plus, when you say anyone can come in here and your partners are welcome in here, that means the world to them. That is a show of support, and it's accepting them. When you talk with them respectfully about their LGBTQ identity, so 48% of them felt supported. So this is several thousand youth across the country that have been surveyed. So at the top, it was 62%. That was a show of support. 48% love it when the parents talk about their identity openly. 47% felt that supported when their parents use their name and pronoun correctly. Also supporting their gender expression, it comes in at 45%. And then when you go out and you educate yourself, you're here, you're educating yourself, you're contributing to this 35%. Thank you. It's very important because we don't want to rely on our kids to educate us, because that's not their role. We need to go and seek information and that will help inform dialogues with them, but we can't rely on them to be our resource, because that's too much pressure on them, because they're trying to figure out stuff too. Okay. Can I get this? Okay, let me double check my slides. Okay. Family Acceptance Project. So this is research out of San Francisco State University, Dr. Caitlin Ryan, who has spent most of her career studying, researching the impacts of rejecting behaviors on LGBTQ plus youth. So the families and their behaviors on how they're behaving towards their LGBTQ child. So they've studied accepting behaviors and rejecting behaviors. They have done this for 20 years across. They have their materials available in 11 languages. And they found across, so the accepting behaviors and the rejecting behaviors, they were the same across cultures. So they were able to prove through this research, which was really amazing research. We have the good fortune of having Dr. Caitlin Ryan be one of our resources in this project, can train anyone, anywhere. They were able to study and show that when they were working with families that were initially rejecting, that they taught them specific behaviors that could show their support. Sometimes acceptance is a leap for families. They're not there, and that's okay. We meet the families where they're at. So it's not that they're right or wrong for what they believe. It's more about moving them from rejecting. And if accepting is not, they're not there, how can we support? And what I appreciate about the Family Acceptance Project is they talk about values. Values are different than beliefs. Beliefs, we hold on so strongly to our beliefs. They're very important to us. And those are here. They're in our brains. Values live in our hearts. And this is the guide always with our hearts. And so what I love about Family Acceptance Project is they're very concrete and they teach behaviors, which is amazing and wonderful. And they have found that when a family learns how to express supportive behaviors, that the mental health improves, their school issues improve, they are no longer experiencing suicide or depression or anxiety, the substance use goes down. It's all of these risk factors that I just mentioned, they go down. So we just need to teach them. Here are examples of, I'm going to actually go to the rejecting one here. Okay. Starting with the rejecting, because I like to go to the positive. Start with the negative. Yeah. Go, like, the sequence is important.
The begin.
Yes. So the other I want to talk about this. So it's a phase. It's a phase. So I'll use myself as an example. I came out when I was 25. My mom said it was a phase. I'm 53. Still, I'm still in a phase, but it's a long phase. I'm not confused. I'm clear. Maybe at 25, it was confusing for me. I was raised in Texas. I didn't even know it was possible to have a relationship with a woman. I did not know that. And over time, my family, they just adapt. We have to adapt. We have an idea of what we think is going to be, and then it's not. But that's our idea. It's not our kids' idea. So if you find yourself thinking, well, maybe it's just a phase, maybe it is, but we don't know that right now. The stage that we're at right now as parents is getting them through to adulthood so they can be contributing, kind members to society. That's our goal. And how they express themselves throughout that process, who they're attracted to, this is coming from them. The thing that I love about being a parent is they show us. Our kids show us. If we just step over to the side and let them be, they show us. So when we get to things like it's a phase or they're confused, just let things evolve and run their course. We don't want to, so another example of rejecting behavior is preventing them from learning about their identity or having friends over, not allowing their friends in the home, if you're involved in a religious congregation, and that's understanding that those are communities and they're really important to families, that they need community. And if there is a church that is rejecting of your child, then that's a big deal. It's a big deal because it's asking a parent to if they leave a community that is a source of support for them, I can understand how this really disrupts the family functioning. We don't want to blame our children for identifying as LGBTQ+. So if there's blame or we mistreat them because of their identities, that's rejecting. We don't want to bring them to a religious leader to try and get them to change. There's also, it's illegal in California, but if there's conversion therapy, in some states, a parent could take their child to have the electric shock the gay out of them. And it still happens. But if it happens in California, we report it to CPS because we don't need to shock the gay out of anybody. Talking to a therapist to try and change. So that's where the conversion therapy can be a practice, but not in California. Or just speak badly about LGBTQ+ people in a negative or derogatory way, because our children are listening to us. Even if you're on the phone having a conversation, being mindful of your language. Does anyone talk on the phone anymore? I don't know. They're listening. They know, they're in the other room. They can still hear what we're talking about. So they're paying attention. So getting to the accepting behaviors, affection. That's primary. How many ways do we express affection? So auditory, visual, kinesthetic. So I love you, writing, I love you, or hugging, so that we need this every day, actually. Go hug your kids. If you haven't hugged your kids today, we need it every day. So no matter how we identify, we need to express affection and caring for our youth. We need to get accurate information and educate ourselves. So that's an example of an accepting behavior. Talk with them. Ask them questions. And if you feel uncomfortable, it's okay. We're gonna have, discomfort, it's just a feeling. It goes away over time. So the more we have this practice of talking openly with our youth, the better. We want to support gender expression. So this can be challenging for parents, because expressing ourselves, we do that in so many different ways. The clothes that we wear, the way we cut our hair, makeup, or style, with our personal style. And so when a youth is moving through their different forms of gender expression, and say they want to cut their hair and they have beautiful long hair and they want to cut it all off, we want to support that, because it's them just exploring it and letting them try on different things. And if you have a hard time with it, then that's more about you than it is about them. So, and exploring that for yourself. So if it's, what is it about short hair that makes you uncomfortable? And where does that come from? Because a lot of the things that we can have a hard time with as parents, we inherited from ours. It's generational. We also want to, so this other thing can be really challenging when it comes to family members. And there's cultural components that make it even more complex. And so if you witness, well, it's important that we treat them with respect. So if family members are not doing that, then it's a matter of you addressing that as a parent. But it's wonderful and accepting that if we are able to require that. And then we also have the hierarchy of family systems that can be really, it's complicated. We want to advocate for them when they're mistreated. We want to believe that they have a happy future, because the thing when we have reactions as parents, I was thinking about this on the drive over here, they're rooted in fear. Our reactions is like, okay, what is the fear about? Is that a real fear? Is this something that is actually going to happen? But people can have happy futures. I have a beautiful 18-year-old daughter. She's amazing. I'm living the happy future right now. And I remember being told that when I was coming out to my mom, is like, what are you going to do? Don't you want to have kids? I'm like, I don't have kids. And I do, and she's amazing. We're also talking with religious leaders and congregations about supporting LGBTQ plus people and welcoming them to services and activities. So this is a very important piece. And part of the Rainbow Connections Project is really doing outreach within the faith leaders in the communities, because these are people that our families go to and they trust. And so when we have allies and these communities that are leaders, wonderful. Okay. So tips for supporting healthy identity development. We're going to love them. We're going to be patient. We're going to be kind, have empathy and compassion. So we're all adults. We made it. We made it past adolescence. Anyone want to go back? No one? Nope. Anyone? Like, I don't think I've ever met anyone that wants to go back to like middle school, high school. It's stressful. Next to infancy, it's the most stressful time of development, is going through puberty. So many changes are going on. So we want to just know that this is part of the process. Gender and sexuality is the part of being human. We all have this experience, and it evolves over a lifetime. At so around gender expression, at one point before COVID, I was like in heels and a power suit all the time, super like just a lot of makeup, and it changes. Think about your own development. Like, how much have you changed? Go look at old pictures and say, wow, what was I thinking with that look? Or whatever it is. It's just, knowing that it evolves, we want to walk alongside and understanding if you have littles at home, you know, it's a different experience. But when they get to be middle school, high school, we get to shift from being the like answer to everything to a consultant. And we need to just give them space to be. Like I said, they're going to show it. They show us. They show us who they are if we allow them to. So that's the practice of a parent. We want to listen with intention. So if you find yourself being activated, so that's new language for trigger. So we don't use trigger that much in the mental health world anymore. Activated. So so if you find yourself getting activated, just notice. It's a practice. Refrain from, so if you notice the judgments, you notice the bias, if there's any negative beliefs that maybe you're conflicted yourself, you know, you could have been raised in an environment where this was just not a thing, not even what I'm going to talk about. And just listening, because and not knowing what to say, if you don't know what to say, don't say anything. Just let it just be. You know, so that is the struggle a lot that I see with a lot of parents is they want to be able to like help and do the right thing and fix whatever it is that they think is going on, but then we just have to let it breathe. Allowing the youth to reveal their identity themselves and not outing them. It's very, very important because it's their experience. So even if you have a youth that says mom, dad, or moms, dads, or grandma, whoever it is that's raising that youth, if they come to you and they come out, wonderful. That's beautiful, because that means that is, you have a relationship where they are comfortable talking to you about these kinds of things, but it's theirs to tell. So, and this is, you know, this can happen in all kinds of settings where people will know this about their identity and they may mention it, but it's just important to just think about yourself too. Like, how would you want people, like, it's your identity. So not, when someone does that for you, then it's like, hey, how would you know? Because maybe there's some fluidity there that other person doesn't know. We want to foster open and honest communication about dating. So I have an asterisk here. I should have in one of them. Oh, they're up here. Actually, it's in the next slide. But I'll talk about the asterisk in the next slide, but there's developmentally appropriate stuff. So if your kid's not, if they're 5 and 6, they're not dating. Yes. So, but when they get to, so when did you have your first crushes or crushes? But when you start getting to this age of dating, you know, it's different for comfort level for families. So I'm not going to throw out an age here. When there's dating, there's like, so the body responds. So think about your first crush. We have a physiological reaction that happens in our bodies before the mind takes over. So the first, like, wow, that person's, I'm attracted to that person. We don't have control over that. We just don't. It's like, oh, wow. Okay, something's happening in my body. So that is, it can be awkward for parents to talk about dating with their kids. But the more open you are about this topic, the closer you'll be with them. Because if they don't have you to talk to, then they're going to go to other places to get their information. And that you want them to be talking to you. You are the resource. And so it's important that you talk, even if it's like, oh, it's weird. And you know, any kind of sexual activity, it's how we express ourselves when we're in an intimate relationship. So sometimes parents can get a little not unsure about how to talk about the birds and the bees with their kids when they have they're dating somebody that is of the same gender. And it's the discomfort, like I was talking about earlier, it passes. We live through the experiences. So having your kid, you talk to them, and if they are feeling weird about it, okay. Sometimes it's like, okay, we'll just leave them be. But even if you open up the dialogue with them, it lets, and they're not, so say they're like, well, this is weird, I'm not going to talk to you about this. At least they know that you're there and that you're willing to talk to them about it. Because then over time, then maybe, you know, down the line, they could be like, okay, well, you know how when you asked me that, then okay, I'm ready to talk. Okay. I mentioned this also earlier, find community and support so that you are not on your own navigating this journey. Okay. Here are a couple tips on how to open the dialogue. These are open-ended. So tell me about how you identify. This is where the asterisks come in. So I put where developmentally appropriate. The thing around gender identity is we have a sense of this sense for ourselves by the age of 4. Age of 4, we know for the most part, there are instances where people transition and they come to know this about themselves later on in life. And typically it's around 4. And then we as parents, we start to see what they're drawn to. And it's really our reactions to those that get in the way. They're just doing what they're doing. So as a parent, being mindful about how, if you notice a gender expression in your youth that is different than the gender that you have been used to, it's really just noticing, not criticizing, not judging, just allowing it. Do you have anyone you're interested in dating? This question is not saying, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? So that's pretty common experience for someone. If they're not out, someone can just come up to me and ask me if I have a boyfriend, you know, because they assume. So we just want to ask you, do you have anyone you're interested in dating? What are some of the things you value most about your identity? So as they're forming their identity, you open the dialogue so they can start talking about it. Because the more we talk about it, the more real it becomes. We have other people around us that are supporting us. How can I best support you? So this can be in all different kinds of realms, but how can I best support you? Just, you know, sometimes they won't know how you can support them, but just asking the question can help. Do you have any fears or worries about your LGBTQ plus identity? This is in the case that if your child is saying, yes, I identify as LGBTQ plus. What are some of the things you think people outside the LGBTQ plus community could do to be better allies? That's a nice one, because yes, if we listen, they have answers. They can show us the way. We have a lot of adults. Sometimes we have language that they're like, what did you just say? And we're like, and then we just talk like this as adults and they don't know, like it's a different language to them. Is there anything you want me to know about your journey or your experiences? So these are just seed planters, conversation starters. If you have an adolescent, they could say nothing at all. They could say whatever, but a one-word response. But you're just putting it out there so they know that you can be a source of support for them. Okay. This slide is, I wanted to introduce this resource that we have through Rainbow Connections. This is George Cano. He works for an agency called Partners for Peace. And if you're not familiar with Partners for Peace, they offer parenting classes across Monterey County. They have Loving Solutions, which is for littles up to 11 years old. They have the Parent Project, which is geared towards adolescents with pretty involved borderline destructive behaviors that are really getting in the way of their success. And then they have Familia Adelante, which is geared towards Latino families that have multi-generational discord around assimilation and acculturation in the United States. And that's they're all 8-week courses, 10-week courses. And then we have Rainbow Connections where George comes in and he offers one-on-one and group peer support. So we have English support group happening currently, and we also have support for Spanish. And right now we have all of the parents that George is working with that speak Spanish are really wanting an individual support. So that's great. And we're starting to see it's starting to work. We have lots of different agencies that are starting to make referrals to George, which is great. We just added a second family support partner. So we have two. Her name is Elena. I don't have her picture, but she's a wonderful human. And we'll have two now. So if you or someone you know would benefit from just talking to somebody, it's not therapy. It's really just talking about your experience of raising your child that identifies as LGBTQ plus, getting some resources and support. George has been trained. If you recall, I was mentioning the research from Family Acceptance Project, and he has been trained by Dr. Caitlin Ryan and her colleague, Antonia Barba. So he has received lots of guidance around how to support parents of LGBTQ plus youth. So that is a wonderful resource. He can go anywhere. He can meet you at a coffee shop. He can meet you anywhere that's comfortable for you. And then link you to other parents. So that's very important. So you have someone that can relate to your experience, which we all need. That's the benefit of having a connection with others that have the same or similar lived experience. Okay, with 10 minutes left, we have time for questions. All right, so I'm not sure we have, our enrollment increased. I just now looked at our participants. So we have 12 people in the house here. 12 people, and y'all can't see our audience, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and then Sean, and then our amazing Lewis here with our IT. So does anyone have any questions? I know typically y'all are quiet here in PG, but if anyone had questions, I'm happy to answer them. You have a question? Okay, good. Someone here live has a question.
Because we were talking about community and talking about different like churches and groups, and one of the things that I've noticed missing in I think almost everybody is spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the places or the churches here that you know that accept people in the LGBTQ plus community and want a place to be to have a faith and to be spiritually attached to other groups? And I'm asking that because my son recently has really been like asking like, what's our religion, like what's my faith, like where do we go? And so we've been going to different churches to see what he wants to do. And so I was raised Catholic. I'm from Mexico, grew up in Mexico.
Yes.
So we went to a Catholic church for Ash Wednesday, and he was paying attention. He was like, he was not moving, which is unheard of. So I just want to know, he decided that was not the place for him, because he didn't think it was very inclusive in the sermon. Like he liked the words, but he just thought, well, that doesn't make sense that they're saying that when they don't accept, my friends, right?
Wow. How old's your son?
He's 12, but he's like an soul, I think.
Yeah, I could tell. I love that. Yes. So for our Zoom folks here, the question is, are there local congregations that are LGBTQ plus inclusive?
Yes.
And I know of one, it's in Marina. I think it's a Methodist church, and his name is Angel is the name of the pastor there. But I will find that information. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
And one of the initiatives within the Rainbow Connections Project is outreach and engagement with the faith leaders. So what we're doing right now with Partners for Peace, and then the project Rainbow Connections also has a collaborative partnership with the Santa Cruz Diversity Center. So they're one of our providers. So we have the Diversity Center and Partners for Peace that are going to come together and have a faith leaders breakfast. So that's our attempt at spreading the wide net, trying to get at, there's typically what I was talking with Dr. Ryan, the Family Acceptance Project researcher, just before I came here today. They've just finished, they have a whole Catholic version of their materials, which is really great. And so I was talking with her about my strategy on how am I gonna find these faith leaders? And she said typically areas and regions have interfaith networks. And so I need to get into that network. And I know a lot of people. So I'm going to go find the person. She also said, find the power center. I'm like, okay, I can do that too. So find the power center, go to the people and share, and then I'll get them connected with Dr. Ryan. And once I get to that part of this, that's where I feel like we'll get some traction with the families that are Catholic.
Yeah.
And there's other religions too, where there becomes a conflict, so it's not just Catholic. And it's just important that we get to the people that the families turn to. So that, and find our allies. I know they're there.
I just think especially with the Latino community,
Yes.
it's like so important because it is ringing in our head, virgin, saints, this, that, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh,
Our Zoom, thank you, Sarah. We have somebody on Zoom that says there's a Unitarian Universalist Church of the Monterey Peninsula that's LGBTQ plus, and it's in Carmel. That's close to you?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is, y'all, beauty here. Here we are, making rainbow connections. Thank you, Sarah, because and if you go, we'd love to hear your experience. And yes.
looking for.
And I love that he's seeking, he's like,
Yeah, everything started when he was 6 years old and he went to Target stuff.
Mhm.
And so we were like, well, no, that's not
Mhm.
how it
I'll do this one, this one.
Yeah.
Let's make
Yeah.
I'll do that one.
okay.
So faith,
Yes.
do not be scared of your faith.
Agreed.
That makes
Doesn't
sense.
need to be either or.
Yeah.
And that he's, that he has that, it just shows where he is in his development of starting to think outside of him. So like, what is the meaning of life? Anybody have that answer? No. So we're all there, yeah. It is all, it's ever changing. Yes. So thank you for that, Sarah, because it's now I'm going to go find my power center over there. Because that's the thing with, there's politics to it too. It's like how do these folks come together? I know that they have gatherings. And so I'm gonna make my way in
Mhm.
because it's so important.
Yeah, and my other question was about the parents when they, I have a friend who, really is having a hard time mourning her daughter.
Yes,
And so these are support groups that she can attend.
Absolutely.
To do that, right?
yes. And there's English support groups and Spanish support groups. So is your friend Spanish speaking or English?
No.
Okay. So if she'd be open, then I can connect you or give you George's information.
yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Good. And those of you that are in the Zoom room, I can't see you. And just know that it's really accessible. And it's really finding connections. It's what's called rainbow connections, is connections that are going to build community. So there's a mourning, like what you're saying. So when we have our kids and we have a whole sense of what it's going to be like, and then they actually say, actually, no, that's not how it's going to go. And there's a loss. And so when your children if they come out, you are coming out too. So there's a whole thing that comes along with that. So just allowing that to be and acknowledging the feelings that come through, and it still doesn't change what's going on. It's like, so that's the process that we have to go through as parents. Yeah.
I think Sean has, Sean, I did a presentation, or Jen did a
Yes.
presentation on
Yes.
specifically that topic. You did a reporting on that.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that one of the moms, she covered. She's a mom who, I think, had her trans son, and she said that I am more than this, and this is how I am. So
Yes.
It's really powerful. Yeah. Or like.
Yes. Thank you for remembering that. I wasn't at that one because I had, so one of the things, y'all, about Rainbow Connections, because this is my life, it's a $7.8 million project. We have 3 more years left. One of the things that we've done with all of this funding is getting international experts that are trainers. So what Julie Y'all didn't hear the dialogue, that those of you that are on Zoom, but we were talking about, one of our audience members was referring to a friend of hers that is having a hard time with their youth that identifies as male now and assigned female at birth. So there's a grieving and a mourning that goes on with the parents around that. So what we have available through Rainbow Connections, maybe in your communication, I have a follow-up with resources. It's a QR code. Gender Health Training Institute, we have 3 trainings a month. The ones that we have done so far, most all of them have been recorded. One of the recordings that Julie Mandaro just mentioned, we have a 3-hour recording on, I think it's was it a panel? Yeah. So we have a panel of, yeah, Juliet. Okay, cool. So adults, you want to hear about adults talking about their experience. So I can send you a link to how to access it. I could also, because I couldn't download the recording, so I'd have to give you some information on how to access it, but it's free. Everything is totally funded. So if you wanted to educate yourself, there's probably 6 or 7 different recordings of different topics. One is on hormones, one's on surgeries, one is on pronouns. Yeah, we have a whole bunch. So with that, this is wrapping up our 4-session series. And I want to thank PG Unified. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you, returning audience member. Are you a parent here?
Yeah,
Okay.
online.
Okay,
yes.
great. Okay. Yay. So we had a parent that was online come in person today. So thank you for being here and listening. And Rainbow Connections will continue to partner with Pacific Grove Unified into the next few years. We're here through October 2028. So as much as we can do within that time, we're here for you. And I appreciate you just even logging on here, Zoom people. I can't see you, but I love you. All right. Yes. Okay. We're good.